The left goes corporate. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Environmental, social, governance. Well, the acronym ESG is a classification and rating system that globalists are now using to pressure American companies into adopting progressive practices at every level of their operations. And like so many really bad ideas, it of course originated at the United Nations. Now, for years, they've aggressively marketed the concept as good for companies, good for you, and good for the planet. ESG propaganda even comes in the form of really creepy videos.
Asset managers who embrace the principles for responsible investment undertake to incorporate ESG issues into all investment analysis and decision-making processes, be active owners and incorporate ESG issues into their ownership policies and practices.
Doesn't it sound great, kids? Well, basically, think of those behind the ESG movement as the self-appointed thought and governance police for corporate America. So companies not on the S&P 500 ESG index are punished by institutional investors and asset managers who themselves are pressured to drop offending companies from their mutual funds or their pensions. Now, one of the biggest promoters of ESG is a guy named Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock. BlackRock is the world's largest asset manager, and this means one company has an enormous amount of leverage to force other companies to go woke.
If they want to have the highest performing stock in their industry, I think what I'm requesting them is what I see from where our clients' money's going. So if they don't choose to do this, I think you're going to start seeing some of these companies having lower performing companies. If you're going to have a high performing stock over a long period of time, you need to be doing this. And BlackRock is doing this ourselves on behalf of our shareholders. We're doing this on behalf of our employees and our clients.
How benevolent. What a humanitarian. Larry Fink will help the world fight against pollution and climate change, human rights abuses, and mean bosses. Except in the place where all of that is rampant, China. BlackRock is heavily invested there, which means it operates with the permission of its Communist Party. Now, Larry might want to check out the new trove of documents detailing the horrifying abuses against Uyghur Muslims at Chinese detention camps going back to 2018. But I guess that's not going to stop the BlackRock China Bond Fund or any of their other Chinese ventures. BlackRock is heavily, heavily entrenched there, and their investments are only going to get bigger. As usual with these self-appointed guardians of climate, hypocrisy and double standards are always bubbling right below the surface. And ditto for their political allies in government who, of course, they love this ESG stuff. But what everyone needs to know is that ESG scores are based on a set of totally arbitrary standards, and they actually could end up kneecapping great American companies almost overnight. Now, not surprisingly, Elon Musk saw right through the ESG scam pretty much from the beginning. And now that Tesla was just booted from the ESG index while Exxon stayed on, Musk's really on the warpath. Exxon is rated top 10 best in the world for environment, social, and governance by S&P 500, while Tesla didn't make the list. ESG is a scam. It's been weaponized by phony social justice warriors, he tweeted. Well, of course, he's right. And the exclusion has only worsened Tesla's stock drop, which has tumbled approximately 28% in just the past 6 weeks alone. So brushing aside the political motivation here, Margaret Dorn, who's S&P Dow Jones's head of ESG indices, she tries to justify Tesla's score by citing claims of racial discrimination and poor working conditions made against its Fremont, California factory and its response to vehicles' autopilot crashes. Well, the more amorphous and ambiguous ESG standards are, the more room to axe your political enemies, right, and reward your friends. Even ESG proponents like Dustin Lance, senior advisor at ESG Global Advisors, concedes that clear metrics are a real problem here. He cites several factors, including a confusing lexicon of categories and taxonomies and acronyms, which have evolved over several years. But Lance thinks that ESG needs better marketing. Wait, a marketing problem? That's like saying Biden's economy is caused by a marketing problem. No, it's just bad policies. So given the blowback that we saw against Disney for its ESG-inspired moves against Florida parents, and then, Musk's complaints and his reach, I think the ESG crowd, they know that we're onto them. And their defense is pathetic. Dustin Lance tweeted, ESG is rapidly becoming politicized, and it's now heavily exposed to disinformation risks. Incorporating ESG factors into business and investment decisions is not about political views. It's about driving long-term value for shareholders and stakeholders. I'll give you a translation here. Capitalism made America too rich. It's time to change that, and ESG can help level the playing field. Got it? Now, Musk himself is too powerful to silence, but they're going to try. Other powerful interests will rise up to protect the woke agenda of ESG by urging social media censorship of their detractors, of course. And that's taking a page from the COVID police's playbook, after all. And look, they're going to cite overriding health and safety concerns. I don't put anything past these people. By the way, this is all the rage at Davos, of course.
We are finding ourselves in a place where we have increasing polarization everywhere, and everything feels binary when it doesn't need to be. So I think we're going to have to think about a recalibration of a whole range of human rights that are playing out online, from freedom of speech to the freedom to, to be free from online violence.
Of course, this is music to China's ears, because the elites have finally come around to the value of suppressing speech, of intimidation tactics, implicit threats, will shut you down, and the use of broad generalities, and also a fantasy of a carbon-neutral world.
For the world to reach, this net zero carbon world, we're going to have to invest estimates more than $50 trillion into new technologies.
I think you get it, right? That the entire ESG movement is just another way to circumnavigate around the American voters. Greening the planet's going to make people like Larry Fink and his friends richer, but it's not going to mean a freer and more prosperous America for the average person. No way. So Musk and other corporate leaders must band together, have the courage to stand up to the woke bullies of BlackRock, and call out the global elites for the frauds that they are. And that's the angle.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.